What started as a normal workout at the local gym turned into a moment no one would forget when an elderly woman told a young black man to go back to Africa. But his response didn't just silence the room, it changed everything. It was a typical weekday evening at Iron Strength Gym, a well-known fitness center in a quiet Ohio suburb. The place was buzzing with the usual sounds: weights clanking, treadmills humming, and people chatting between sets. But today, that normal rhythm would be shattered. Near the dumbbell rack, an elderly woman, probably in her late 40s, was adjusting the settings on a leg press machine. She wore a faded pink sweatshirt and gray sweatpants, her silver hair tied back neatly. Her appearance was unassuming, but what happened next was anything but ordinary. A young black man, tall and athletic, wearing a blue workout hoodie and basketball shorts, finished his set of bicep curls nearby. His name was Marcus. He was focused, polite, and just another gym goer, minding his own business. As he took a sip from his water bottle and checked his phone, the elderly woman turned sharply, noticing him. Her expression shifted. It wasn't subtle. "You people don't belong here," she said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. Marcus paused mid-sip, lowering his bottle. "Why don't you go back to Africa where you came from?" she continued, her voice sharp and cutting. The air changed. Gym-goers who were stretching or adjusting weights suddenly froze. Conversations stopped. A few people exchanged uncomfortable glances. Some stared at their reflections in the mirror, pretending not to hear. The energy in the gym shifted in an instant. Marcus' first reaction was disbelief. His brow furrowed slightly, his grip tightening around his water bottle. For a moment, it looked like he might respond immediately, but instead, he exhaled slowly, keeping his expression unreadable. The elderly woman, still gripping the leg press machine, stood her ground, unapologetic. A young woman on the treadmill nearby slowed her pace, eyes darting between them. A middle-aged man near the squat rack side, as if bracing for what might come next. For a long moment, Marcus stood completely still. Every sound in the gym seemed distant, muffled by the weight of her words. Then finally he spoke. "Ma'am," he said, his tone calm but deliberate, "do you even realize what you just said?" His question wasn't aggressive, it was reflective, as if giving her a chance to reconsider. But she didn't. "I said what I said," she snapped, crossing her arms. "This is my country. People like you don't belong here." That was it. A young man tying his shoelaces near the bench press looked up. A woman wiping down an elliptical machine let out an audible gasp. Yet Marcus remained composed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't take a step closer. Instead, he let the silence stretch, making her words echo louder than she intended. "All right," he said finally, nodding slowly. His calmness was disarming, almost unsettling in its strength. "Let's talk about that. Since you brought it up." The gym held its breath. Marcus set his towel down with deliberate care. His calmness was like gravity, pulling everyone closer, even those pretending not to listen. He looked at the elderly woman, not with anger, but with quiet determination. "You said I don't belong here," he began, his voice steady but firm. "But let me tell you something about where I come from." The crowd was transfixed. "My great-great-grandfather was born in Mississippi," he continued. "He was a sharecropper, working land he didn't own, breaking his back so his kids might have a better life. His father? He was a slave, kidnapped, beaten, sold like property. And for what? To help build the very country you're standing in." The elderly woman's lips tightened, but she said nothing. The gym, however, was silent, everyone listening. "My grandfather," Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength, "fought in World War II. He risked his life for a country that sent him overseas to fight, only to treat him like dirt when he came back. couldn't sit at the same counters, couldn't drink from the same fountains. But he stayed. You know why? He paused, letting the question hang. Because he believed in this country's promise, even when it didn't believe in him. The hush deepened. Even the whir of the treadmills seemed quieter now. And my parents, they fought too, not with guns or fists, but by working every single day, raising me to believe in kindness, respect, and hard work. My mother is a teacher. She spent her whole life helping kids, no matter what they look like. My father, he's a mechanic, the kind of man who'd stop on the side of the road to help someone like you if your car broke down. He let the words settle before continuing, his eyes still locked on hers. So you're telling me I don't belong here? That I should go back to Africa? He shook his head slightly, his voice carrying a hint of sadness now. Ma'am, I am as much a part of this country as you are, maybe even more, because my family paid the price for it, in blood, sweat, and tears. The elderly woman's face flushed. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the machine. She opened her mouth as if to respond, but stopped, her words caught in her throat. Marcus took a step back, still composed. I could have walked away, he said, now addressing the entire gym. But what good would that do? Ignorance doesn't get better in silence. It's up to all of us to be better than this, to be better than words like those. The silence after his words was almost deafening. For a moment, no one moved. The elderly woman's face was a mix of emotions, anger, embarrassment, and something deeper, something that looked almost like shame. Then, a middle-aged man by the dumbbells spoke up. He's right, the man said, breaking the silence. We've got to be better than this. A woman adjusting her resistance bands nodded. My dad fought in that same war, she said softly. He always said the only color that mattered was the red on the flag. Murmurs spread through the gym. A young trainer near the front desk called out, I've never seen anyone handle something like that so gracefully. Thank you. The elderly woman, now visibly flustered, grabbed her gym bag. She didn't apologize, but the fire in her eyes had dimmed. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. I didn't mean, she started, but stopped herself. Marcus looked at her, his expression softer now. It's not about what you meant, he said gently. It's about how it came across. Words matter. Actions matter even more. A small round of applause spread through the gym. People clapped not just for Marcus' words, but for the courage it took to confront hate with dignity. And just like that, the moment ended. But everyone there knew it would be remembered long after the weights were put away.